Right. Aizawl, as I think you've seen by now on some of the other backgrounds, is mountains and the houses going down. Like there's lots of steps going down from the road. So, as one person said on the way here, if you're fat in Aizawl, that means you're lazy, because there's a lot of climbing. There's really a lot of climbing, lots of staircase, and this is. Again, I don't think you will see it so well, but this is kind of going steeply downhill. So it's kind of a nice climb to get up to the top, which is not that far from here, the road, and then from there you can get to other places, etc. Right. So an introduction to Exodus chapter 16. What this chapter is about? Well, what's new? What's new? There's nothing new in. They could say the one thing history teaches us that we never learn from history. And for the Israelis there in the desert, it's exactly the same thing. They're always grumbling, and then God provides, and then they grumble, and then God provides, and they grumble, and God provides, and they grumble. I mean, and God does a miracle, and they grumble, and God does a miracle, and they grumble. We've seen the miracles in Egypt, right? All the plagues. We've seen crossing of the Red Sea. We've seen bitter water turns sweet. We've seen all of these things already, and every time they still grumble, right? As if they just can't get their head around the fact that God is not a dictator kind of up far away God who is just waiting for you to do something wrong to destroy you, but He's actually a God who, although we don't deserve it, cares for us, right? A Father, grace and mercy, which sure, just as well. Praise God for that. There is justice. If God wasn't a just God as well, that would have been really, really bad. Okay, that is just like a Father Christmas who always give you what you want, and then there's nothing stopping you from doing whatever you want because, you're just going to get sweets. So what happens in this chapter? No food. Oh, if we stayed there in Egypt, we had all this wonderful food, all this bread, so many different sorts of bread and meat and yeah, right, as if they had all of that, right? They were slaves. Okay, so sure, they would not have been eating all this. Yeah, sure, in Egypt they were famous for all the different kinds of breads, but nah, right? No. They're like the Germans or the Russians of the day. Or the French, before the French kills me here. Anyhow, so no. And grumbling because they want all of this again, but which anyhow didn't have there. But so fast to forget. So then God ultimately said that He will provide for them. God heard their grumbling, and God was going to provide. But through this provision, He was going to shine forth again His glory. Right? We have said that so much. Solid your glory for the glory of God. Right? Their grumbling, bad, stupid. But God will, through that, again, show His glory in providing for them, although they didn't deserve it. So God had them all. Moses got them together. It said that in the morning God will provide. And then ultimately God is going to provide. He's going to provide the manna and even quail, some meat that they didn't even personally ask for at that stage. God provided for all of those things. But for now the focus is on the manna. And God is going to give them information concerning the manna, how they're supposed to. Right? They're like with the lamb before, the Passover lamb, they need to do it here the same. They must not just take and just whatever, like, see out there's a lot and I only need 1 kilogram, I'll go for 10 kilograms just because I can collect 10 kilograms kind of idea. No, they were supposed to collect for the amount of people they need so that they don't have anything left. Those with bigger families, they had to get more. Those with smaller families, they should have, were told to just collect less, therefore, so that they just had, like with the lamb. If one whole lamb, but if they were not enough to eat the whole thing, they could share with the neighbors, ought to share with the neighbors, so that there's nothing left. Right? So the same thing happening then here. I just always think of how we were taught as kids to never leave food on the plate. Because of, there are people that goes hungry. And I remember my sister said something like, yeah, right, so put it in there's orphans in Africa that's hungry. And my sister told my mom that put it in an envelope, give me an envelope, put it in an envelope and send to them kind of idea. My mother was not very happy with that. But yeah, so here the same kind of concept, don't waste. But people didn't listen. So they gathered more than they needed. What happened? They left over in the morning, worms in it, stank. Okay. Then God told them, but they're supposed to collect, and on the Sabbath day, there's not going to be any. So on the sixth day, there will be more for them to collect. They need to collect double, and so they did. And then they were informed that they're not supposed to go out the next day to go and collect again because there's not going to be any. But like always, some people didn't listen. They went out in the morning to collect, to search for, and there was none, understandably. The other miracle, understandably, is the fact that every other time they only should have collected for one time and not for 2 days, because if they did, what was left over, worms, went bad, stank. But on the Sabbath, for the Sabbath they collected, all of a sudden they collected twice, and it did not stink. It all went well. Okay? Yes, it all ultimately stayed. That is as well a miracle. Just some other days it could not last 2 days, and now all of a sudden for Sabbath it could last 2 days. So you see God's provision, God's care, all of this, God laying down the rules, and the people still, oh, we want this, oh, we are going to collect more than we need, oh, we are going to collect or try to collect on the Sabbath, not listening to God. It's kind of plain simple, but yes, every time. But still, God provided. God provided. Now, in the end, they called it manna. And that is the grace of God in ultimately providing. And then they were told that they need to keep this in a special place so as to be a reminder of the time in the desert and how God provided food for them during this time, the 40 years that they're going to spend in the desert. Yes, at that stage, so this idea of the 40 years, that could have only been added later on, because at that stage they had no idea that they're going to spend 40 years in the desert. They were not supposed to spend 40 years in the desert. So those verses concerning their spending time would have been I always say an explanation or later addition ultimately. So it's nothing, it's like Moses' death, a few words here and there added on concerning what happened later on. There's nothing wrong with that, with somebody just giving that extra kind of information, just put things all in perspective.